Yesterday, in the Oval Office, the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado, physically handed her Nobel Medal to President Donald Trump. Most of the world is laughing at this. The Norwegian Nobel Committee is issuing furious press releases calling it absurd and a violation of protocol. The headlines are screaming about the awkwardness, the cringe factor, the spectacle of a participation trophy diplomacy. But while you were distracted by the shiny gold medal, you missed the actual exchange that happened 6 days earlier. On January 9th, inside the White House, President Trump didn't meet with democracy activists. He met with executives from Chevron, ExxonMobil, and ConocoPhillips. He promised them, quote, total safety to invest $100 billion into Venezuela's oil infrastructure. Here's the contradiction that no one on cable news is explaining to you today. On January 3rd, the U.S. military launched Operation Absolute Resolve to capture dictator Nicolás Maduro. We were told this was to restore democracy. We were told this was for the people of Venezuela. But 10 days later, the woman elected by those people, María Corina Machado, is begging for relevance in the White House, handing over her life's achievement like a desperate token, while the new regime in Caracas, led by Maduro's own vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, is signing oil contracts with American protection. Machado didn't give Trump that medal because she admires him. She gave it to him because she knows she has already lost. And the media is too busy mocking the gesture to tell you why. Let's look at how this story is being framed. If you open the New York Times, the Washington Post, or turn on CNN this morning, the narrative is uniform. It is a story about personality. They are framing Maria Corina Machado's visit as a quirky human interest story. They are focusing on the unprecedented nature of a Nobel laureate giving away their prize. They are focusing on President Trump's reaction, his Truth Social post, calling it a wonderful gesture. They are interviewing Norwegian politicians who are scandalized by the breach of etiquette. This is a classic narrative technique, trivialization through spectacle. By focusing on the object, the medal, the media turns a geopolitical betrayal into a celebrity gossip segment. They are asking, is it tacky to give away a Nobel Prize? They should be asking, why does the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize feel she has to bribe the President of the United States with her medal to get a seat at the table? Here is what is being ignored, delayed, or minimized in that coverage. First, the timeline of Operation Absolute Resolve. The mainstream press covered the raid on January 3rd extensively. The helicopters, the capture of Maduro, the transport to New York. It was cinematic. It rated well. But the moment the dust settled, the coverage vanished. Why? Because the outcome wasn't what the democracy promotion script promised. Instead of installing the opposition leader who won the primary, Machado, the U.S. administration effectively greenlit the succession of Delcy Rodriguez, a key figure in the very regime we supposedly just toppled. The media knows this, they have the press releases. But reporting it requires explaining a complex, cynical oil arrangement that contradicts the good versus evil narrative of the military intervention. So they omit the oil meeting. They minimize the role of Delcy Rodriguez. And they frame Machado not as a betrayed leader, but as a supplicant. They use framing language like little to show or awkward encounter to diminish Machado's standing. They paint her as weak rather than systematically sidelined. This isn't an accident. It is selective omission. The establishment media is comfortable with a story about a dictator captured. They are comfortable with a story about Trump's ego. They are not comfortable with a story about the United States military acting as a private security force for Chevron to extract oil under a slightly rebranded dictatorship. That is the story they are hiding behind the Nobel medal. We are going to move past the opinions and look strictly at the record. Here is what we know based on the filings, press statements, and official transcripts from the last 2 weeks. Fact 1. The raid. On January 3rd, 2026, the U.S. Department of War, and yes, remember, the administration reverted the name from defense to war, announced Operation Absolute Resolve. Official statements confirm that U.S. forces entered Caracas and extracted Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores. President Trump stated at Mar-a-Lago, We have a group of people running Venezuela until such a time it can be put back on track. Note the phrasing. A group of people. Not the elected opposition. Not María Corina Machado. Fact 2, the oil meeting. On January 9th, 6 days after the raid, President Trump held a roundtable with oil executives. According to the transcript from that meeting, he told CEOs from Chevron and ExxonMobil, "We're going to be extracting numbers in terms of oil like few people have seen." He explicitly promised total safety for their investments. Crucially, he stated, "We're not going to look at what people lost in the past. We're going to make a lot of money." This was the signal. The priority was not restoring the 2024 election results. The priority was securing the Orinoco Belt. Fact 3, the new regime. Following Maduro's extraction, his vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, was sworn in. Under the Venezuelan constitution, this is technically the line of succession if the president is absent. However, the U.S. had previously declared the 2024 election illegitimate. By recognizing Rodriguez, even tacitly, the U.S. is validating the very regime structure it claimed to oppose. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt let the truth slip in a briefing when she said Rodriguez seemed willing to work with the U.S. Compare that to her statement about Machado yesterday. "I don't think Trump needs to hear anything from Miss Machado." Fact 4, the Nobel desperation. This brings us to yesterday, January 16th. Machado enters the White House. She is the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize laureate. She represents the democratic mandate of millions of Venezuelans. And yet, she is kept out of the official photo ops. The meeting is closed press. Afterwards, she confirms to reporters that she presented her medal to Trump. She calls it recognition for his unique commitment with our freedom. Trump posts on Truth Social, "Maria presented me with her Nobel Peace Prize for the work I have done. Such a wonderful gesture of mutual respect." Analysis of the evidence. Look at the disparity. The oil executives got a public roundtable and guarantees of total safety. The Democratic leader got a private meeting and had to surrender her most valuable possession just to get in the door. We also know from sources close to the transition that Machado was barred from holding public office by the Maduro regime. The U.S. could have made lifting that ban a condition of the new government. There is no evidence in any public filing that the U.S. has demanded Machado be reinstated. In fact, Trump explicitly said days ago that Machado doesn't have the support or the respect within the country. That is a direct quote. And it is factually false based on the 2024 primary results. But it is politically convenient if your goal is to work with the entrenched bureaucracy, Rodriguez, rather than upend the entire system with a democratic revolution. What we don't know, we do not yet know the specific terms of the deal between the Trump White House and Delcy Rodriguez. We do not know if there is a timeline for new elections or if transition is just a code word for indefinite interim government. But the evidence suggests the deal is already done. Machado's visit was not a negotiation, it was a plea. The reaction to this spectacle has been a case study in hypocrisy. Let's start with the Norwegian Nobel Committee. They issued a stinging statement yesterday, reminding the world that the title of a Nobel Prize laureate cannot be transferred. They called the physical handing over of the medal absurd. These are the same institutions that often ignore the plight of Venezuelans when it is not trending. Now they are outraged, not because democracy was sold out for oil, but because their medal was used as a bargaining chip. They are protecting the brand of the Nobel, not the peace it is supposed to represent. Then look at the American political opposition. Democrats in Congress are currently twisting themselves into knots. On one hand, they want to attack Trump for coddling dictators by working with Delcy Rodriguez. On the other hand, they are terrified of criticizing the military operation that captured Maduro because it is broadly popular with the American public. So, what do? They mock Machado. You see tweets and commentary from liberal pundits calling Machado pathetic or a sycophant for praising Trump. They are blaming the victim. They are attacking the woman who was forced into an impossible position rather than attacking the cynical foreign policy that put her there. And finally, the MAGA ecosystem. The reaction here is triumphant but confused. Influencers are sharing the photo of the medal. They are claiming it proves Trump is the peace president, but they are completely ignoring the fact that Trump just invaded a country and is currently propping up a socialist vice president. If you point out that Delcy Rodriguez is a key architect of the Maduro state, you are blocked or ignored. The narrative has shifted instantaneously from fight the socialists to drill, baby, drill. The principles have vanished. The only thing that remains is the victory lap. It is a perfect circle of cynicism. The Europeans care about the metal. The Democrats care about the optics. The Republicans care about the oil. And the Venezuelan people who actually voted for Machado are left watching their leader hand over her trophy to the man who just cut a deal with their oppressors. Now, looking ahead, based on the incentives we have laid out, I am going to make one clear prediction for the next week. Expect the media narrative to shift within 72 hours to legally and politically normalize Delcy Rodriguez as a reformer. Here is why. The oil majors, Exxon, Chevron, cannot invest $100 billion into a war zone. They need legal stability. They cannot operate if the U.S. government considers the Venezuelan president illegitimate. Therefore, the Trump administration must rebrand Rodriguez. You will start seeing State Department briefings, leaks to the Wall Street Journal, and talking points on Fox News that describe Rodriguez as pragmatic, technocratic, or willing to cooperate. They will drop the narco-terrorist label for her, even though they just used it for her boss. They will frame her as the safe pair of hands needed to stabilize the energy market. Simultaneously, you will see a coordinated effort to sideline Machado. The Nobel Medal story will be used to paint her as erratic or overly emotional. By next Friday, the narrative will be that Machado is unhelpful to the transition, and that supporting Rodriguez is the only adult choice to keep gas prices down. Watch the adjectives used to describe Rodriguez next week. That will be the tell. The establishment, both the media and the political class, relies on you getting caught up in the symbol, not the substance. They want you arguing about whether Machado should have given up her medal. They don't want you asking who is signing the contracts for the Orinoco Belt.